My name is Chinwendu, and I am a recovering alcoholic with food. I am from Omaha, Nebraska. I have been in Overeaters Anonymous for 19 and a half years. I have been abstinent really for the first time ever in my entire life for the last 2.5 years. To qualify, I have a top weight of somewhere over 600 pounds. I've lost over 275 pounds in Overeaters Anonymous, and I've lost over 175 pounds in this current abstinence. Acceptance as a starting point, I'm going to read you something from the June 6th for today. It's one of the most, it's the page that crushes my skull. And I'm going to read you the first sentence and the last in the last section too of the same reading. If we were completely self-accepting and at peace with myself, I would not be disturbed by another's words or actions. And I'm someone who lived disturbed all the time. Everywhere, in every space. Everybody was a effing this and effing that. I hated you. I hated you. I just want you to go away. Do you know how dumb you are? Do you know how stupid you are? Do you know how much you're annoying me? You're annoying everyone. I spent my life as the director, as it talks about in the big book. And it didn't work. And then the last sentence or so from that same reading: perfect acceptance is at all times perfect acceptance at all times is not possible. What is possible is to grow in understanding and the ability to accept and acknowledge my feelings. And even in these rooms, right? It took 17 years to fully accept my powerlessness. I did not believe for a second that I was powerless. Now, and I didn't come in the rooms and look at where I didn't relate. Because, a 26-year-old black man in Omaha, Nebraska, there's none of that going on in Omaha, Nebraska. You know what I mean? I'm still the only black man ever met in Omaha, Nebraska in a room. Right? And there weren't a lot of 26-year-olds either, But I came in and I knew that you guys were my people. Like, I knew that Overeaters Anonymous, I immediately knew I belonged because I didn't know what was wrong with me. I just knew I couldn't stop. I could never stop. And so when I found that room, I just kept going, right? I just kept showing up. I didn't listen. I didn't take direction. I'm not an alcoholic. Why would I read a big book? That's dumb. You want to know what I eat? That's dumb. I need a sponsor? That's dumb. I thought this whole thing was dumb, but the thing is it had me. It had its claws in me, and I couldn't get out. And who shows up to meetings 3 or 4 times a week and eats for 17 years in program? I do. Because the thing is part of it worked. Because that half measure availed me more of my own power, It allowed me to... There's a line in the big book, a life run on self-will can hardly be a success. All those half measures enabled my own power, the power that I thought I had, because I didn't know that I was powerless. I didn't know I had absolutely no power whatever. And so I found that when I finally got into a space of I'm really powerless, right? And it happened about 2.5 years ago. I was going up the stairs at my house, and I couldn't get up the stairs. I was over 500 pounds again, for the umpteenth time, because I probably lost 1,000 pounds at least in this program, because, you try for a little bit, and you quit. You wait till after Labor Day, and then you start eating cake again. You're like, I don't have a problem. I have a problem with sugar, so I only eat fried chicken. You know what I'm saying? For me to admit that I had a problem with sugar, flour, and fat in combination, and then volume overall, that was impossible, you guys just don't know what it's like. That's where I thought I was terminally unique. I didn't care that I was black or I was a man. I was like, there's no other people as fat as me here, so it must be worse for me. It must be worse for me because I'm fatter than everybody in the room, right? So that's where I thought I was terminally unique. And that was just another one of those lies and stories that like kept me in bondage to myself. And so in the space of acceptance, what I had to accept is that on some day in February of 2023, I couldn't get up the stairs. I couldn't get up the stairs in my own house. And I could hear my higher power, and he's like, he said, are you going to listen now? And I guess I said yes, because I'm here, because I should be dead. I really should be dead. So I went to my sponsor the very next meeting, and I said, I'm really ready. I'm really ready. I'll do whatever you tell me. She said, I think you need a male sponsor. Well, fuck you! I'm finally ready! It only took me 5 years of working with you. I'm finally ready. And she was like, and so, but it was the first time I really took direction from her, So, I saw a guy. I saw a black guy in a little Zoom square that looked smaller than what I had seen him 18 months prior. So I asked him to be my sponsor, and he said yes. And then he said, the first conversation we had about this, he said, are you willing to be fired from food and food decisions? And I'm like, if I say no, he's going to say he's not going to sponsor me. Now, in this period between the crying on the steps and God, the higher power, whispering to me, am I ready? And this conversation, it's like 3 weeks. So I was like, well, I kind of have to say yes because I need a sponsor. Because the one thing I knew is that up to this point, it didn't work with me doing it alone. I had gone alone. I had completely and totally gone alone in this program. I stayed on the outskirts. I was on the outside of the herd. I knew I belonged, but I didn't want, I couldn't accept that was going to be my life forever. And it wasn't until I could accept that I was sick and that I could accept my life in this space today that I could have a new experience in this program. Because the thing is to look at me at over 500 pounds. I drive a big SUV and a F-350 pickup truck. So those are big vehicles. And when you stop driving the big SUV because you're feeling the tightness of the seatbelt, and that's part of the reason I'm in a big SUV, you know what I'm saying? And I'm in an F-350, and I'm in the F-350, and the F-350. When you're in the F-350 and you can't get the seatbelt on, it's a problem. That's where I was at. So I was like, okay, I'm going to be fired from food and food decisions. Because I had to accept what I had done to myself. And I never, ever accepted it. Because the thing is when I was 8, I got diagnosed with hypothyroidism. So it was because my thyroid doesn't work. My thyroid doesn't work. You don't understand. It's just not fair because my thyroid doesn't work. It's not fair. The cards are against me. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't do weed. I don't do drugs. I don't do anything. I just eat. Eating is okay. You have to eat. You have to eat. You have to eat. Turns out you never have to go to the places that I used to go to. I never have to eat that. And so the very first thing that started to wash over me in this abstinence with this sponsor, because the thing is there's a cleansing of the mind when I get out of the food. I start to realize that all my ideas are trash. All of them. Not some of them. Not the ones after church on Sunday. Not the ones on Saturday morning. Not the ones when I'm at Panera. All of my ideas are trash. Not just the ones about food, but the ones about relationships, the ones about family, the ones about raising my children, the ones about taking care of other people. All my ideas are trash because they were all rooted in my lower power. They were all rooted in the bondage of self, and I was completely unavailable to my higher power. I was not available to that power. From the same page that she read January 15th, OA has given me back my power. I kind of edit that part. I have no power. I would refer to it as OA has given me back my access to power. I choose to practice unconditional self-acceptance while I relish the mystery of change. I did not want to have an experience in sobriety with food because it's painful, because it makes me look at the person in the mirror and I have to accept that person. I have to accept that person that's 500 plus pounds, that's raised his children as an alcoholic with food, with rage, with vitriol at times, with kindness and love at other times. But I had stained my family. I had stained myself. But the idea of, getting off of the food, right? Getting off of the substance, right? Like removing the liquor from my life was it left me with tremendous amounts of shame. And in that shame, it was almost impossible to acknowledge this, which is from the 12 and 12, a couple paragraphs into the 12 and 12, chapter 7. In OA, we have discovered that humility is simply the awareness of who we are today and the willingness to become all that we can be. Genuine humility brings an end to the feelings of inadequacy, the self-absorption, and the status seeking. Humility, as we encounter it in our OA fellowship, places us neither above nor below other people on some imagined ladder of self-worth. You couldn't tell me for a second that I wasn't worth less than you because I'm a piece of shit. I'm a piece of shit, period. And I know that at my core. So for me to believe that line, that I wasn't below you, I spent my whole life trying to look and appear above other people because that's just how I felt. My baseline was less than. And the thing is this reading was telling me that I was on equal footing with every single other person. It places us exactly where we belong, on equal footing with our fellow beings and in harmony with God. So that meant that I was no better or worse than anyone else. That meant when people were gossiping about, like whatever the tea of the day is, whatever it is, like P. Diddy, Bill Cosby, whatever, Laura Ingraham, Fox News, CNN. Like, I'm no better than anything. I'm no better than any person, anywhere, at any time. And I'm also no worse. So then that idea of love and tolerance in the big book really starts to hit home. I mean, it really starts to crush my spirit. Because what am I going to do if I have to accept me? Then I have to accept you because we're all equal. And in that equality, then I get to have an experience. Then I get to have a walk with a higher power, a sober walk in abstinence, where I get to be of service. Because any other time I had been of service before this was just to quell that inadequacy. Everything was to quell the inadequacy. All the food, all the doing, all the not doing, all the thinking I was better than, all the thinking that they were stupid. It was all to quell my own inadequacy. I don't have any inadequacy today that I just don't talk about. That's why I have a sponsor. That's why I have Trusted OA Fellows. When inadequacy comes up, I talk about it, right? I mean, yesterday, I'm in the airport waiting for fellow people from Omaha, and like an idiot, I'm sitting in the baggage claim area, and I have all my food for this trip in my suitcase, but I'm too embarrassed to open it up and get my banana and peanut butter for my snack because I'm an idiot. All my thoughts are trash. So after 2 hours of being hungry in the airport, I ate at 3 o'clock in the morning. It's now like 1:30 Eastern time, so it's like 12:30. I've gone like 9 hours without eating. That's not the direction from the nutritionist. The nutritionist is every 4 hours. Should have had that snack with me on the plane, but I'm like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to look weird eating peanut butter and banana on the plane. Nobody gives a shit. So when I called my sponsor, he goes, what are you doing? You mean you have the food with you right now? I'm like, yeah, but it's embarrassing because there are all these people here. And I have a cooler in my suit. I have more food in my suitcase than I have clothes in my suitcase. That's the kind of compulsive overeater I am. I had to join the cooler club. I had to bring that shit with me. And he goes, open up your suitcase and get your food and eat it. And that's because I'm saying all my ideas are trash. 2.5 years in, I'm still embarrassed in an airport. I don't want, what are they going to think? Oh, he's eating food. But the thing is like I'm constantly, I was never ashamed when I was eating like a whole family thing at Popeyes. I was like, let's get it in. Can I have 2 more strawberry Fantas, please? I mean, I never cared, right? I'm just stupid. But in this walk of self-acceptance, as I finish up, and what God is walking me through on this very day, is that bondage to self is my biggest poison. It is my biggest poison. Bondage to my own thoughts, there should be nothing for me that I keep to myself. I'm not the kind of person who can keep anything to himself. I have to have trusted people to reveal my thoughts to. Otherwise, I will eat. I've gone through a lot in these last 3 or 4 months in my family and in my life. And it's all been very affirming that if I keep the things in, that bondage will suffocate me and it will take me out again. This is the first freedom I've ever had from this disease ever. I have no intention today of surrendering to it. I heard surrender described at a. I'm a sunriser. I'm a sunriser. I go to a sunrise meeting of Overeaters Anonymous, and there was at the convention they had last year, the lady said she interprets surrender as joining the winning team. That's how I look at surrender. Surrender is joining the winning team. And when I join the winning team, I don't have a choice but to surrender more and more of myself each day to a higher power of my understanding. And sometimes I don't understand it, but it's okay. It doesn't matter. Sometimes I call it God, glory of Jesus. Sometimes I call it, it doesn't matter, right? It doesn't. I've learned that it doesn't matter what I call it. What it matters is that in order to accept me, I have to turn over myself to that power, because I am powerless. And that power has taught me one day at a time to act in a way that is accepting of myself and others. And that has been more than I could ever ask for. Like if I die today, I die as a compulsive overeater in recovery that is in full acceptance of his entire lot in life. That's all I have. Very thankful to be here today.